Thanks for watching. I'm Tanner with Cruzely.com, and today I am talking about some of my favorite tips that I've learned over years of sailing and literally dozens of cruises. I like these specific tips because they are all ones that, well, they just don't feel right. They go against the grain, but when you know them, you'll be a smarter cruiser and have a better vacation. So let's dive in. Just like you, when I'm reading online, occasionally those ads pop up for last minute cruise deals, or ones that talk about empty cabins sailing for dirt cheap. They used to catch my attention, now they just simply make me laugh. On the surface, it makes sense, right? If a cruise ship is about to sail empty, then why not slash the cruise fare to get people on the ship and spending money during the trip? Well, it may not feel right, but the idea of getting a last minute cruise fare, especially these days, it's pretty much nonsense. Don't bother. For one, cruise ships sail at occupancies over 100% on average. That means that each cabin has at least 2 people and some have 3 or more passengers. Second, imagine if cruise lines did cut prices right before the ship sails. That would train passengers just to wait to book for the best price, which would then cause mayhem in planning. Bottom line, if you think that you're going to find a last minute cruise deal, think again. This is my AARP card, and no, I am not retired. I'm not 55 or older, but I am a card-carrying member. It may seem wrong, but in fact, anyone can be an AARP member. It doesn't matter your age. And if you join, you can save some considerable money on cruises. As a perk for members, AARP, they have discounts on a lot of gift cards, including gift cards to a number of cruise lines. This includes names like Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Princess, and Celebrity. Now these discounts, they can vary, but generally it's 10% off the headline price. So you can buy a $500 gift card for your cruise, but only pay $450. Considering that cruises run thousands of dollars, you can use this perk to save literally hundreds on your vacation. All it takes is being a member. It's $12 a year, and yes, you even get a nice tote bag. I'm a dad, and this is a weird one that I just cannot go along with personally. In fact, I was amazed when I learned about it. Every major cruise line, they have a kids area. Here, you can drop your kids off and they can have fun while you go out and enjoy the ship. It's a nice break for parents, and the kids like having their own space too. That's not the weird part. For instance, Carnival says on their website that, quote, if parent or guardian decide to leave their children in the care of youth staff while in port, they can, close quote. I guess there's not a big difference whether parents are on the ship or in port, but the idea of leaving my kid while heading into port on my own, frankly, it just doesn't sit right with me. I'll never quite understand it, but even though it feels wrong, I'll always tell people to take advantage of booking extra passengers in the cruise cabin. It's really weird how cruise cabins are sold. I frankly do not get it. If you sail solo, you pay for double occupancy. So a person sailing alone pays the same price as 2 people sailing together, except for those port fees, of course. But when you add a 3rd or 4th passenger in the same cabin, they can sail for peanuts. I guess the room is sailing with passengers anyway, so it's not like they take up another cabin, but some of the prices can be so low that I'm not sure how it even covers the cost of food. Now, of course, cabins are small, so I don't blame you if you wouldn't want to sail with a 3rd person in the room. But if you do, you can save some serious cash when the cost is spread across 3 passengers. I have to admit, I am one of those people that if I'm not 10 minutes early, I feel late. On a cruise, I found that's actually a bit of a bad thing. Let me be clear about this one. Never show up late when it comes to the ship's departure time. As in, don't even cut it close. If the ship has an all aboard of 5 p.m., don't casually come walking up at 5:30. But for things around the ship, showing up later can actually be better for your vacation. For instance, when the ship docks and says passengers can go ashore, there's typically this big rush right at the start. Instead, giving it 20 or 30 minutes to let all the first passengers off can be much better and you just walk right off the ship. For meals in the dining room, I try to arrive a little later to let the line die down as well. And if you want a good seat, show up to the theater early. But sometimes I like to just show up a few minutes after it actually starts Just grab a chair in the back once everyone is already seated. It's less time just sitting around waiting for the show to start. Most seasoned cruise passengers likely know, but if you've never sailed before, what I'm about to tell you can feel very wrong. Drinks and food, you can take them anywhere on the ship that you want to. On land, we have all sorts of rules, especially about where you can drink alcohol. On a cruise ship, it's the complete opposite. You can order a drink and sip it while you walk around, and frankly, everyone does. If you're hungry, there's no law that you have to eat in the restaurant. Lots of people grab something from the buffet and take it back to the room or sit on their balcony. Just know that your room might have food smells afterwards, so don't get anything that smells too bad. Now, the first time that you do it, it can feel a little foreign. I'll tell you from experience, however, that feeling goes away in about 10 seconds. If you read about shore excursions, one of the big pitches for them is that if you were on an excursion that sold through the cruise line, then if it's late returning to the dock, the ship will wait for you. For people that have a fear of the ship leaving without them, it can be a major selling point. Now, it might sound funny, but for the vast majority of excursions, do not let this influence your decision at all. Now, if you are on an all-day excursion, or one that leaves late in the day, or ventures hours and hours away, then sure, it's nice to have that extra security. Most of the time, however, excursions are actually just a few hours long and they stay relatively close to the ship. So you might leave at like 9 a.m., go out and explore for a few hours, and then have lunch, and return to the ship at 1. Meanwhile, the actual ship doesn't leave until 5 p.m. In other words, you normally have a massive amount of time, even if you are delayed getting back. Add to that the fact that many ports in the Caribbean are relatively small, meaning most times you aren't even that far from the ship. Now, like I said, this doesn't go for every excursion, but most times you can ignore the ship will wait for you sales pitch. I swear that no matter what I do, it seems like by the time I'm able to access reservations at places around the ship, like those specialty restaurants, all of the good spots are already full. It is so frustrating. That's how I know firsthand that one thing you can do is just show up without a reservation. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it is always worth a shot. For example, I recently took a trip aboard Virgin Voyages where this happened. I wanted to eat at the Mexican restaurant, and the entire trip I could never find a time. So I went down right when it opened, stood in line, then told them that I didn't have a reservation and could they find a seat anyway. Now, to my surprise, despite all of the reservations being taken, the restaurant was largely empty. I was seated right away and I had a great meal. I've tried this on other cruise lines too, and it has worked. Anyone that shopped for a cruise knows the frustration that comes with seeing some tiny headline fare. Then you add in a second passenger, and then you add in those taxes and fees. The final cost, it's way more than it seemed like right at the beginning. Honestly, I think it's weird that cruises are priced this way. The law changed a few years ago where airlines had to include taxes and fees into the headline cost, but for some reason, cruise lines don't have to do this. That's why I like to use what I call the rule of 2.5. Put simply, take whatever headline price you see and immediately multiply it by 2.5. So a $1,000 cruise fare will actually be closer to $2,500 for the entire trip. You want to include onboard spending and gratuities? Then just multiply it by 3. This gives you a much better sense of the cost when shopping around so you don't get that sticker shock when seeing the final price. Anybody that knows me knows that I am all about saving money on a cruise. I've literally been building spreadsheets trying to figure out flights for an upcoming trip just to find the best deal. That's why it feels wrong for me to say, but if you're going to spend money on the Wi-Fi on the ship, then go ahead and bite the bullet and pony up for the highest and yes, the most expensive tier. I've sailed a lot, and while connections do seem to be getting better and faster, it is still very much hit and miss. Like the last cruise I took, it had a blazing fast connection. The one before that was in the normal range where it's about 3 to 5 megabits per second. That just feels sluggish even on the highest tier plan. Now, I have tried the cheaper basic connections that are offered, and to me, they've always been nearly unusable. Not only are there more restrictions, such as no streaming, but the speeds, they can be just abysmal. Internet in the middle of the ocean, it's hard enough. There's no sense in trying to save a little money here because the experience can be a whole lot worse. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you got some great tips out of this video for your upcoming cruise. Now, one thing, you might notice that Cruzely.com is getting close to 100,000 subscribers. So if you can help us meet that goal, that would be amazing. As well, you can always find more on everything cruising at Cruzely.com or check out the other videos on this channel. Until next time, happy sailing.